very much, Chief Parenti. My name is Jason Perot. I'm the chairman of the Northborough Board of Selectmen, and I call to order this October 19th, 2020 regular meeting of the board. Prior to conducting the meeting, we have some boilerplate to get through here, so if you'll just bear with me. This open meeting of the Northborough Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which is posted at the top of our agenda, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public participation in the form of public comment. Meetings being conducted by over the Zoom video conferencing application. The instructions on how to connect to the meeting are on the agenda. You have a few different ways with the YouTube live stream, the Zoom meeting, and also it's being carried, I assume, by Northborough Cable Access. Note that the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Attendees, be aware that you're being recorded. You are in view, and you may wish to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to avoid having any intrusive sound coming through. Anything that you broadcast or display will be captured by the recording. Let's see. Let me just go over the kind of the ground rules for how the meeting's conducted. I, as chair, will introduce each agenda item and presenter. After the presenter includes the remarks, I'll go down through the board members, inviting their questions, comments, or motions. Please hold until your name is called and you're recognized by the chair. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait for the chair to yield the floor to you. And members wishing to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, waiting to be recognized. I'll speak about the parameters of public comment when we arrive at that portion of the agenda. And finally, because this is a remote meeting, all votes will be taken by roll call. So with that, I would first like to walk through the participants in the meeting to just essentially do a sound check for everybody. My name is Jason Perot, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Tim Kalin, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Leslie Rattan, Clerk.
Present.
Julianne Hirsch.
Present.
And Scott Rogers.
Good evening, present.
Additionally, we have a number of members of town staff. We have Town Administrator John Coder.
Present.
We have, and we welcome our new Assistant Town Administrator, Becca Meekins.
Present.
We have our Public Works Director, Scott Charpentier.
Present.
We have our Finance Director, Jason Little.
Present.
We have our Fire Chief, David Parenti, who's also acting as our Zoom moderator.
Present.
We have our Chief of Police, William Liver.
Present.
And we have our Town Clerk, Andy Dowd.
Present.
Thank you all very much. With that, I think we can begin with the agenda. First item is the approval of the September 28, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the September 28th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Leslie Rattan, seconded by Scott Rogers. Any discussion? Leslie.
Just a quick modification. Under the those present under the Board of Selectmen, it says Tim Kalen clerk. Tim Kalen's actually the vice chair and I'm the clerk, so I just wanted to be sure that's correct in the minutes.
Yes, we can have the minutes edited to reflect that correction. Any other discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I, Jason Perot, also vote aye. The approval of minutes carries unanimously. Now past the hour of 7 o'clock, and our first item of business is David Parenti, Fire Chief, swearing in of firefighter paramedics Anthony Ricardo, Cameron Tracia, and Matthew Tufo. Chief Parenti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it okay with you if I go ahead and bring those guys right in as panelists right now?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Come on, guys, don't fail me. Turn your cameras on.
There we
There's
go.
Cam. There's one. There's Tony. Come on, Matt. Matthew. Today was his first day. There he comes. Oh, he's coming in.
Here he comes.
There he is.
Yes.
All
Excellent.
right, Matt. You got to sit down there, Matt. The light behind you really is blinding you out there. Come closer, buddy.
There
Oh,
we go.
perfect. Stand there.
Yep.
Oh, while Matt's getting up, I'm going to go ahead and start the introduction, if I may.
Yes, please, Chief.
So we were faced with two openings in a very short period of time. We had one retire, and we had one gentleman leave us for another department. Chairman Perot sat in on part of the oral boards with us. We went through the oral boards. We came up with some people we wanted to move forward for the oral boards. We brought in 5 people for the oral boards, all really good candidates, actually. In fact, I would have been comfortable bringing on any of them, which is good and bad, because that makes it a hard decision sometimes. In the course of all this, we had another opening, which was terrific. That we did have a good slate of candidates. Much better, Matt. Thank you. We had a good slate of openings. I mean, a good slate of candidates to bring in. So just let me hit them real quick here. So the first one I like to speak to is Tony Ricardo. Tony comes to us from MedStar Ambulance, where he worked for 6 years. He was a EMT basic field training officer for new EMT basics. He graduated from Quinsig in 2016 with his degree in associate's degree in paramedicine, and came on board with us a little over 2 weeks ago. And now both Cam and Tony have done their 2-week orientation. And interestingly enough, all 3 of our candidates got into the same Mass Fire Academy recruit program. So they'll all get to go to school together. They can be real close buddies. So the academy starts on February 21st. Yummy, yummy. Nice weather to be out there playing firefighter. And the graduation date is on May 7th. You guys do have a summary of all these, and I'm not going to get into their personal information, but we do like to provide that to the board so they know what's going on and what they're hiring. The next gentleman I'd like to speak to is Cam Tracy. Cam's coming to us from, and you'll hear this again, MedStar Ambulance, who apparently is not going to be very happy with us, I don't think, because we hired away 3 of their very good candidates. Cam was a call firefighter with the Shrewsbury Fire Department for several years. I spoke with Chief Vona from Shrewsbury, who I'm good friends with, and he spoke very highly of Cam. Very excited to be getting him on board. He also was very involved in the Barnstable Fire Department. As he grew up, he had an uncle that was in Barnstable, and he got to do some ride time with there. Cam does have a 1 leg up on the other 2, and that Cam has already gone to the Call Vol Academy, so he's firefighter 1-2 certified. That, however, will not prevent him from going to the full-time Fire Academy again in February. Both Cam and Tony have started on shift. So Cam has been assigned to D shift under Captain Hurst, and Tony's been assigned to A shift under Captain Brillhart. That brings us to Matt. And Matt's first day was today. So Matt started his 2-week orientation today. Matt comes to us from, guess where? MedStar. And we're very excited to having Matt on board. Matt also is our only veteran in this group. He spent not quite 4 years, but I guess a 4-year hitch in the Navy, where he was a Navy corpsman. He was stationed in Italy and Japan, which I'm still mad that I didn't get to go there because of COVID, but that's a whole nother thing. And then he earned his associates in paramedicine in 2020. So he's our youngest medic. He's going to spend some time on the ambulance. He's going to be learning a little bit more about the ambulance as the other two progress. And they'll do a lot of ambulance time, but they'll also have to learn a lot of stuff on the fire side. And as I said, Matt and Tony and Kim will all be starting the Fire Academy on February 21st. So we're excited to have them all on board.
Thank you very much, Chief. Cam, Tony, Matt, welcome. We're certainly happy to have such capable candidates come in and join our department. I think you've heard the story from the chief and other members of the department. Just very proud of it. Very happy with the cooperation and collaboration that goes on there. And we just look forward to having you join and be a part of that. So let me ask each of the three of you, I'll go left to right as you're presented to me on Zoom here. Just if you'd care to make a brief statement or acknowledgement, start with you, Cam.
I'm thrilled to be part of the Northborough Fire Department. I've worked very hard to get to this point in my career, and Northborough is definitely going to be a place where I can learn and grow and succeed as a firefighter and a paramedic. And I'm honored to be a part of it.
Great. Thank you, Cam. Tony.
I'm very excited to jump on with Northborough Fire. Glad to be serving the town of Northborough. It's a beautiful community. I'm excited to get into the Fire Academy and really start to absorb all those things, start to use, put it all to good use. Thank you for having me.
Very good. Thank you. And Matt.
Yes, I am also very excited to join the Northborough Fire Department, and very excited for this opportunity to grow within the department and become a better firefighter and paramedic. And couldn't do it without my fellow firefighters and paramedics to assist me along the way. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Matt. As Chief Parenti mentioned, I was the member of the Board of Selectmen who sat in on the interviews for these candidates, as well as several others, and certainly it was a very competitive process. So congratulations to you three for having emerged from that and the candidates we're bringing in here to Northborough. Members of the board, any comments? Leslie.
I want to thank all three of you for being here. All three of you are very impressive candidates, some pretty amazing credentials, and I'm quite admiring of everything that all three of you have done. And to be honest, I did think it was a typo at first when I saw MedStar on all three of them. So I'm sure they are not going to be happy, because obviously all three of you are quite capable individuals that I'm sure they are going to be sad to be losing. But we're very happy that you're here in Northborough. You have a wonderful chief. We have a wonderful chief whom you'll be working for. Very well liked and very well respected, very capable as well. He loves stats too. So
Learned that on my first day.
yeah. So a lot of things get accomplished by this department, and I know the community is very appreciative of that. And I think that the more capable people we have in this department, the better. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for applying. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Very good. And now Chief, we proceed with the swearing in.
Yeah, Andy Dowd's going to do the swearing in. And gentlemen, I didn't get a chance to speak to you all today. I did speak to Matthew. It'll be slightly different than we do in the past. Andy is not going to ask you to repeat after him, because it would be insane if we tried to do that through Zoom. So he's going to go ahead and just read the oath to you, and you're going to raise your right hand. And when he's done, you're going to say, I do. I think that we can handle that, right?
Yes, sir.
Say yes, Chief. Okay,
So,
good. Whenever you're ready, Andy.
Thanks, Chief. So as he said, if you would just raise your right hand, and I will administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as firefighter paramedics for the town of Northborough in accordance with the bylaws of the town, the laws of the Commonwealth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Excellent,
you.
gentlemen. Guys, as I've told you, we're very excited to have you on board. You got a lot of work ahead of you, but you got an incredible board and that stands behind us, and we got members of town hall that stand behind us, and we're thrilled to be to have some young talent. And the scary thing is you're all young enough to be my kids, so I'm getting really damn old, but that's okay. So thanks, guys. You don't need to stay around. You can all leave. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you,
one more
guys.
just one more
Oh, yeah.
comment, guys. Typically, when we were doing these meetings in a real physical room, it would be common for you to have family members present to witness the swearing in. As you know, in these circumstances, everything's done a little bit differently, but we do want you, on our behalf, to pass along our congratulations to your families for this this milestone.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Very much.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Welcome
All right,
aboard.
take care.
Care.
And next on the agenda, it's past the hour of 7:05. We have Andrew Dowd, Town Clerk, acceptance of COVID-19 response grant application from the Center for Tech and Civic Life pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Andy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this grant opportunity was made available to actually election officials all across the country. This nonprofit received a $250 million donation, and that was earmarked towards specifically assistance with elections across the country. So the grant award for Northborough totaled $5,335. It's basically based on our population, number of voters, what our budget is. And there are really no strings attached. We can pretty much spend it on any election-related expense, which we have some significant ones this year, given all the additional burdens placed on us. So I was happy to have the opportunity and to receive the award.
Thank you very much, Andy. Comments, members of the board? Leslie?
I just want to congratulate Andy and thank you very much for applying for it and always knowing what's available. I think it's impressive that this is a $250 million contribution. Do we know, is it some anonymous donation in this amount, or what do we know?
I don't know exactly. I believe it was through another foundation, but obviously a large sum of money.
Wow, very impressive. But thank you very much for applying and for receiving that. And I know that with all your expertise, that it will be put to good use. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any other board members? Thank you. I will add my thanks and congratulations, Andy. Appreciate the effort to pursue this and obtain these funds for the town. Certainly in the current budget environment, every dollar helps. So appreciate the effort. At this juncture, did we want to talk about election process, or are we going to wait till later in the agenda?
I'd be happy to do that now if you like.
Sure, please do.
Just to provide you with a brief update, as I've discussed before, all voters in Massachusetts this year have the opportunity to both vote by mail, vote early in person, or vote on election day. We've had a very significant volume of mail-in requests. We've surpassed the 5,000 mark this week. So we've mailed out more than 5,000 ballots to Northborough residents, which is a very significant number, a large number, obviously. So people are taking advantage of that opportunity. Also, just this past weekend, starting on October 17th, early voting in Massachusetts began, and that lasts for 2 weeks in Massachusetts. We're holding our early voting at the Senior Center up on Barefoot Road, where we had done so back in September. It's worked out very well. That's also been an extremely popular choice. Over the weekend, we saw about 225 people vote on Saturday, another 142 on Sunday. And today, the first weekday, actually, we had 199 people show up to vote. So the numbers are significant. The good thing is we really haven't had any lines to speak of. We did have a bit of a line at the beginning on Saturday. I think a lot of people were excited and saw all the media notice regarding early voting beginning in the state. So, but that was great to see. So that process is going well. One other thing I just wanted to mention and remind folks of is if you've requested the mail-in ballot, it does come with a postage paid return envelope. If you prefer, you can drop that completed ballot off at Town Hall in the drop box. We actually just had a new drop box installed in front of the building in the loop adjacent to the US mailbox. So you can drive right up and not even have to get out of your car and deposit the ballot in that box. And that's already been an extremely popular item. I know I've been emptying it in the morning when I arrive at work, and after the weekend, it's quite full. In addition to that, there's also the drop box that's at the side entry door, and folks can either use either one of those. And also, if people wish and they feel more comfortable handing it to someone in person, you can return your mail-in ballot to the early voting site at the senior center during the hours that site is open. So that's another option, and we've seen quite a few people do that. I should just reiterate the hours for early voting. The rest of this week, they're open 8 to 4 at the senior center, except Fridays we're open 8 to 12. Over the weekend, next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, they'll be open 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the hours mirror again next week, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 4, and the final Friday, October 30th, 8 to 12. So people have a lot of options. They're obviously taking advantage of it. Another thing, there's lots of great information on the website, which we're trying to keep current. But I would encourage anyone, especially if they requested and returned a mail ballot, the state has a very useful feature through the Secretary of State's website where you can track your ballot. So you can go online, enter some simple information identifying you, and it will not only show that your request has been received, it will indicate when the ballot had been mailed to you. And then when you return it, it will populate again, indicating the ballot's been received back. So it gives you that peace of mind and confidence that we did in fact get the ballot, and your vote will indeed count. So that's certainly all keeping us very busy. I have to thank Karen, my assistant in the office, and also the fantastic election workers that have been helping out with both the mailing process and also in the early voting site. Have a lot of good volunteers, and some of them truly volunteer for absolutely no money, which is amazing. I think the person who's put in the most hours is one who will accept no pay, and it's pretty phenomenal to have people like that are stepping up and willing to help with the process. So I appreciate it, as I'm sure you do.
Thank you very much, Andy. And I second that sentiment that the efforts of yourself, Assistant Town Clerk Karen Wilbur, and all of the election workers who are putting their time, extra time in these circumstances to accommodate mail-in balloting and early voting. It really is an extraordinary effort. It's an extraordinary amount of extra time to accommodate it, and just very, very appreciative of all the work that's being done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board? And hearing none, John, would you like
Well,
to?
I just wanted to make sure that to be clear, in order for the board to, for the town to accept this grant, the board needs to formally vote to accept it under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A.
Yes, exactly right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, to accept funds under the Tech and Civic Life COVID-19 Response Grant Program for any staffing, training, and necessary equipment relating to the 2020 presidential election.
Second.
Moved by Julian Hirsch, seconded by Leslie Rattan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I, Jason Perot, also vote aye. Carries unanimously. So thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item, it's past the hour of 7:10, and we have Jason Little, Finance Director, approval and execution of advances in lieu of borrowing. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a procedural hurdle that we have to go through following authorizing borrowing authorizations. There were two articles that were approved at this year's town meeting on July 18th. And those were for the water sewer garage, which was $800,000, and the Assabet Hill water tank, which was $725,000. And this advance is the part of the borrowing process where we are just authorizing that we can begin these projects. We are borrowing the money from ourselves per se before actually formally going out to the market and borrowing money in the form of an anticipation note or a bond. And so you just have to vote to accept this.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Any questions by the board? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move the board vote to approve and execute two advances in lieu of borrowing effective October 19th, 2020 in the amount of $1,525,000 as presented by Finance Director Jason Little.
Second.
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Tim Kalen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you.
And the next item, past the hour of 7:15, we have Suleiman Kamara, Divine Community Transportation, to consider an application for a transportation livery license as submitted by Suleiman Kamara, doing business as Divine Community Transportation for premises located at 300 West Main Street.
Would you like me to promote him, Mr. Chair?
I just pushed the button.
There you go. And Di's here as well in case you have any questions of her.
Great. Thank you very much, Chief. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you just state your names for us, please?
I, Tunu Sepetu.
And Suleiman Kamara.
Very good. Thank you very much. We have before us the license application for livery service. Can you give us a little bit of description of the business operation?
Well, we transport individuals with cognitive and developmental disabilities to day programs. But currently, due to the pandemic, we only have one individual whom the parents are comfortable in going, and that is the business or that the population we are serving. Also serve seniors and community members that have a doctor's appointment or any community activity whom cannot drive to those appointments. That is the type of population our business cater for.
Great, thank you very much. The application has been reviewed by Detective Sergeant Brian Griffin, who's does the background checks for this kind of thing and does not find anything of concern. Just noting on the application, the condition is that no more than 2 livery vehicles be parked at the business address at 300 West Main. You're aware of that and agreeable to that?
Yes, we do.
Very good, thank you. Any questions by the board? Leslie?
Not a question, just a comment. Also, the building inspector, Bob Federico, did also submit a letter saying that according to the town of Northborough zoning use tables, the proposed use is an allowed activity.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
I move the board vote to approve the application for a transportation livery license as submitted by Suleiman Kamara, DBA Divine Community Transportation, for premises located at 300 West Main Street, with the condition that no more than 2 livery vehicles be parked in Mark's parking spaces located in front of the Divinity Community Transportation Business entrance at 300 West Main Street at any one time.
Second.
Moved by Tim Kalen, seconded by Leslie Rattan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Rattan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. Carries unanimously. So congratulations, and we wish you well in the operation of the business.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the town of Northborough.
Thank you.
Okay then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And this brings us to reports. So let's begin with Scott Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, thank you to Chief Leiber and Chief Parenti for the monthly reports. It's always important to see what's happening in terms of some of the emergency responses and other elements happening in town. Second item, John, a question for you. We've had the recent windstorms and power outages, and kind of at the same time, we've been reviewing emergency management plans. Just an opportunity for you to talk about, how we do in terms of responses to emergencies and our process there.
Sure. Actually, so the chief is our emergency preparedness coordinator, but you've got the 3 legs of the stool right here. You've got Chief Parenti, Chief Leiber, and Scott Charpentier, the DPW director. The fire chief is obviously our point person, but these are the 3 folks that I coordinate with throughout all of the emergencies. The windstorm recently, we've done pretty well in terms of not having too many outages, and we've done a lot of tree work over the years to keep that to a minimum, but there's not much you can do when you get a windstorm of that magnitude blowing through with that kind of intensity. But it's a coordinated effort, and we start talking late at night or early in the morning, or in some cases, I usually get a phone call from the fire chief around 2 or 3 in the morning. I think he waits till that time to call me, just till I fall asleep. But no, in all seriousness, it's a coordinated effort in terms of the responses. And depending on the magnitude and the duration, we start to expand and bring more people into the team, and we start looking at other resources. But generally speaking, at least with this last one, it was a matter of a couple of days. Most people had their power back, so we didn't get into a sheltering situation. It was nice that the weather was fairly warm, so people were comfortable, relatively speaking, sheltering in place. But the town has extensive emergency management plans. The chief can speak to those in detail if you'd like. But essentially, we have this coordinated group that expands as needed, depending on the severity and the duration of the emergency. It includes bringing in a board of health agents, the assistant town administrators, an integral part of the member of the team. And if things were really bad, we'd open the emergency operations center, and one or more of you would be required. That's why you've all been trained, would be required to serve in that capacity. We've been very lucky. I just want to say, when I started and I took over in 2008, I was in the seat for a couple of months, and we had that ice storm in 2008. We had a couple of hurricanes. We had the October storm in 2011, 2012. We learned a lot, and we have a very good team that has built on those experiences. And just so everybody knows, the Melican Middle School is our shelter. The Melican Middle School has a generator that powers the entire facility if need be. We have sheltering plans, we have cots, we all have all sorts of preparedness plans that are in place. And again, it depends on the emergency and the duration of it, and there'll be a coordinated response accordingly. But one thing I will say about this community and the employees, sometimes you find when things are bad, That's when you realize that your organization has some internal issues where people either can't communicate or don't communicate or get along well. This organization and this staff that you have excels when things get bad. The coordination improves. Everybody works well together, and we focus on the needs, and that's a nice place to be as an organization. So good plans, great staff, and excellent execution is our method. So can answer certainly any specific questions you may have, but there's such a variety of emergencies. This last one just happened to be a windstorm. The thing we prepare most for is the thing that we get hit with most, and that's winter storms. So that's what we're really focused on, because that's just statistically, that's where we're going to get hit with and need the most response for. So that one, I think we've got that one down pat. So.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I did my best to commit those 800 some pages to memory, but I'll have to go through it again. No, just an opportunity, given that, as we enter storm season, that, we've got plans in place and all the rights aspects of that covered. Right. Nothing else. That ends my report.
Thank you very much, Scott. Julianne?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I have two announcements from the Northborough Cultural Council. The first is that in the past, they have had very successful cultural programs during Apple Fest weekend. In keeping with the tradition, this year they will have a virtual Culture Fest of Music and Arts on November 6th at 7 p.m. Reruns will be on November 7th and 8th at 2 p.m. So that's Friday evening and Saturday and Sunday afternoons on the NCAT channel. Secondly, the council is now accepting grant applications to fund programs and events that showcase the arts, humanities, and interpretive sciences. If anyone has a program they would like considered, applications will be received now through November 16th, and they can be found at www.mass-culture.org. Also, White Cliffs Committee met again on October 14th, where we discussed the fact that getting the building back to perfectly historical condition is looking prohibitively expensive. The committee agreed to contract with the architects to come up with a modified plan, which they describe as preservation light. The committee allocated about $6,000 to have the architects outline the minimum we would need to preserve the building and get it up to code. I'd also like to add that at the meeting, Norm Corbin did a short but comprehensive summary of the actions that the committee has taken so far. And this is all on YouTube now and will be available in the minutes once the minutes are approved. Third, I want to say a word of appreciation about our Trails Committee. Since the pandemic started, it is wonderful to see the numbers of people using the trails. They've provided a safe activity for people during this time. And I think we're all grateful that in our town, we have such a large number of well-maintained trails to use. So many thanks to the Trails Committee for their hard work and planning. And lastly, I just want to bring up a topic that I addressed at our September 28th meeting. We've been receiving many emails from residents about problems on Bartlett Street. We also hear in public comments and emails about other situations in town. And many times these statements come with good ideas and the offer to help. Yet we don't have a mechanism to talk about when and how these issues will be addressed. So once again, I'm asking that at the end of all of our meetings, we take a few minutes to talk about what should be on the agenda for the next meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Julianne. Leslie.
Okay, I would like to thank both chiefs for their reports as well. And all the information and statistics are wonderful to see. And I do particularly appreciate the letter that was at the end of the police chief's report, which is a happy thing. It says, "Dear Northborough Police Department, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join in on our mom's 80th birthday parade. You really helped in making her day wonderful and so memorable. You are all awesome. Sincerely, Chris and Katie Hallett." And I think that's important to mention these things. I know that your department has done a lot of things like that. And I think in this time period we're in now, being able to do something happy like that and contribute to someone's happiness is really terrific on the part of our department. So thank you very much. doing that. I also wanted to wish everyone luck on Halloween. I know that there are guidelines that were put out by the CDC and also the state, which I think, you know, if I had to bottom line it, I would say just use your best judgment. It's sort of how I look at it. To be honest, I myself don't really quite know how to handle it. And I know a lot of people are up in the air about what to do. A lot of people don't want to open their doors, you know, for all the kids that could potentially be showing up. People don't want to have to, you know, necessarily greet the kids and be all of a sudden in contact with a lot of different people. People are talking about whether or not to package candy up, and that, which actually is, I think, a nice idea, but it could be potentially very labor intensive, and you really can't predict how many kids are going to come through the neighborhood or not. So it's really, I think, a very tough thing to know how to do, and I'm actually kind of unsure about how I want to handle it myself. So as far as I know, there is no additional guidance from the state. John, we haven't heard anything else. Is that correct?
No, so through the chair, so the state guidelines are essentially referring to the CDC. Our new health agent did put a flyer together referencing both those and providing some guidelines. But I think your point is well taken. Use, you know, common sense and follow the safety guidelines of washing your hands, keeping your distance, wearing a mask, and making a decision that's right for you and your family. Probably the best thing to do would be to, you know, the directions are wash your hands, wear a mask, and put small bags together and leave them out so that kids can come up and take one. You can look at them through the window. That keeps them safe, keeps you safe. And Leslie, if you have extra candy, you can drop it off at Town Hall. We'll take care of it for you. No worries there.
I think I have done that before.
You have done that before.
So I just want to wish everyone luck, and I think it's a nice tradition, and I would hate to cheat the kids out of that because it is an outdoor activity, and there have been so many unfortunate events for the kids this year in terms of things being rescheduled and canceled and so forth. So I think it's great, but I just think everyone pretty much just needs to use their own judgment. So I also wanted to mention the new pergola that is on the town common, which is absolutely beautiful. That is a beautiful pergola. The landscaping around it is perfect. It adds some real, it's just a very classy kind of a thing to have at that end. And with the landscaping around the perimeter, obviously in the flags and everything else going on there, I think it is a beautiful town common. And I drive by there. I drive through town every day and see people walking through, kids, teenagers kind of hanging out. So it's really a very beautiful thing. And I am assuming that the DPW and Scott are responsible for that installation.
Through the chair, there was a donor who provided a substantial financial support for all the plantings, benches, and pergola. The contractor did all the installation. We coordinated the design efforts and the operations, but it's nearing completion. There's a couple more new features that you'll be seeing popping up at the town common soon. So just hang tight. We'll be seeing some more beauty there.
Well, thank you very much. Looks beautiful.
Actually, through the chair, if I could just add something.
Yes, John. Sure.
So just staying on that topic, the DPW director and I met with another donor who is donating probably multiple sculptures, kinetic wind sculptures for the town common. So we were citing those with him a couple of weeks ago. And we have somebody that may be interested in actually donating some funds to paint a mural on the side of the gas station that is the backdrop for the town common and the pergola. And as it happens, Scott and I went over, spoke with the owner. He's very much in favor of that. So that's just another thing we're working on. If we can make that happen, it'll just add to the enhancement and the backdrop of that whole area. So just again, in terms of the execution of the contracts and the coordination of the donors for the pergola and the sculptures, just fantastic. And it does look terrific. And anybody has been out there to look at the new pergola and see how it all comes together, I encourage you to do so.
and the brick fundraiser, everything, a lot of nice things have gone on with that town common. And I do want to thank the town common group. That really was a nice initiative for them to have gotten going. And I know a lot of work has been put into that. Thank you very much, Scott, to your department too, because that's why it looks so nice, you know, ultimately. So thank you. And I have a final reminder about the Community Affairs Committee Jack-o'-lantern stroll that will be taking place at the Town Common, speaking of which, on Friday, October 30th through Sunday, November 1st. It's their first annual, and the jack-o'-lanterns will be on display and lit up, from what I understand, that entire time. So I think that's a great event too, that will add to Halloween spirit. So thank you very much. That ends my report.
Thank you, Leslie. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to thank the chiefs for their reports. Second, I just wanted to thank everybody that has sent in applications for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. We got 19 applications. So the interview subcommittee for the Board of Selectmen is going to be busy over the next couple weeks, conducting interviews. We were planning on having those interviews done for the Selectmen's meeting tonight. But since we got so many applications, we had to spread those interviews out over a couple weeks. So we won't be making the recommendations to the Board of Selectmen until our first meeting in November. I also wanted to remind people, if they haven't already, if they have interest, to submit an application for the Implementation Committee for the master plan. There are 6 seats available for that for residents. So if you're interested, please submit an application for that. And lastly, to please vote, as Andy was saying earlier, the process has been seamless for early voting, and up through the election on November 3rd. I think it's pretty good to be pretty easy for people to get out and vote, and it's important that everybody does. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. So I have a few things on my plate here tonight for report, because we are trying to be responsive about some of the issues that have been raised recently. So let me begin. As you know, we've received quite a lot of communications concerning the development process going on Bartlett Street. Most recently, I think the communication from Jonathan Ray on Laurel Ave over near that area. What we've done is just to try to put together a statement here that I will read. This is just something that we've crafted, which basically is to the extent of acknowledging the respective jurisdictions of the various boards involved in the process. I tried to speak to this kind of casually at one of our last meetings, but just wanted to give a little more diligence here. So let me read this statement on that topic. The Board of Selectmen has received correspondence regarding the project proposed for 0 Bartlett Street. As many residents may be aware, land use approvals required for the project are within the purview of the Planning Board, the elected body with the applicable site plan and special permit responsibility under the town's zoning bylaw. While town administration and the Board of Selectmen are aware of the various development proposals within the town, we do not take formal action while an application is pending before the application's jurisdictional board. One reason is to allow each application to be considered on its merits and avoid a situation in which an applicant might contest the decision on the grounds of improper influence or predetermination. All applicants have a basic due process right afforded to them, and it is in the interest of the town to protect the process and allow the town board with the permitting responsibility to conduct its hearings in a fair and consistent manner. We encourage citizens to participate actively in any land use or other permitting matters that are of interest to them. Residents of the town can express their concerns as part of any public hearing process conducted for a development application. The Board of Selectmen recognizes that this is an essential part of local and democratic government. In this instance, the warehouse use is one that may be proposed under the applicable zoning provisions. As provided by law, land use permitting decisions are subject to the standards established in the zoning bylaw and also to the general requirements of state statutes. That law also provides for an appeal process should residents or applicants request review of the terms of a special permit decision. We are sure the planning board, as the elected body with jurisdiction, will take your concerns into consideration and give them the appropriate weight within the context of the applicable laws. Thank you for taking time to communicate your thoughts and concerns, and we encourage you to remain involved in the planning board process. So that is the official statement at the moment. There is no formal or official or jurisdictional role for the Board of Selectmen to play at this time. We encourage residents to participate through the appropriate process, which fundamentally has been the hearing process conducted before the planning board on these development projects. The next item relating to that, there has been some statements made publicly, either on websites or freshly made in public comment at one of our last meetings concerning a potential conflict of interest on the part of Mr. Mark Donahue, who's an attorney for the Gutierrez development, representing them on their behalf in front of the planning board. And the fact that Mr. Donahue also serves, or has until recently served, as the chair of the Industrial Development Commission, a town municipal board. The suggestion had been made that Mr. Donahue was operating and being allowed to operate in a conflict of interest manner, with the appointing authority being the Board of Selectmen. As a consequence of this allegation, it's incumbent upon the Board of Selectmen to investigate the circumstances, which we have done by requesting to town council for an opinion on this situation. And that opinion from town council indicates that Mr. Donahue is in fact in compliance with the conflict of interest law because he, like many of our board members in town, virtually all boards, is operating under a special municipal employee designation. This is a designation that's actually written into the conflict of interest law and specifically allows a board member of a town municipal board to represent private interests in front of other boards and committees, so long as he's not participating in a matter that would present itself in front of the board or committee that he himself serves on. That has been the case, that there hasn't been any matter relating to the Gutierrez properties that have come before the Industrial Development Commission, and there has not been any conflict of interest on the part of Mr. Donahue. This information is basically the opinion that we've sought and received from Northborough Town Council. The information that's been expressed publicly on this matter has been inaccurate in their claims that there has been a conflict of interest. The special municipal employee designation has been in effect and attached to various boards and committees over a period of time, beginning in January of '88 and extending through August of 2007. Over that period of time, we have no less than, it looks like, 20-something boards and committees operating under a special municipal employee designation, including, for instance, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Conservation Commission, the Financial Planning Committee, the Appropriations Committee, the Open Space Committee, and of course, the Industrial Development Commission. So this information is a public document. I'll be happy to forward it to anyone who wishes to have a copy of it. But I want to make very, very clear the insinuations that have been made about Mr. Donahue's participation in this matter with respect to conflict of interest law is inaccurate and incorrect. And it unfortunately has had the effect of having Mr. Donahue resign from the Industrial Development Commission solely as not to jeopardize the representation he's currently providing to his client. Speaking personally, I've worked with Mr. Donahue from time to time on various town boards, most recently the Master Plan Steering Committee. He's always been very professional, very generous with his expertise and opinions, and I hope at some point in the future he will choose to return in some form to town service. That's essentially my statement at the moment on that portion. I would encourage anyone who has made public representation suggesting that there's a conflict of interest to reconsider and retract those statements as they are not correct. Another interest relative to the Bartlett Street circumstance is the suggestion that a truck exclusion be imposed in that area. Based on requests and input from the public, I asked the town administrator and his staff to investigate what authority the Board of Selectmen has and what constraints apply to that area of town with respect to trying to impose a truck exclusion. The information we have back, and people should understand that it's not simply the will of the Board of Selectmen to choose to impose truck exclusion. This is subject to Massachusetts state requirements for Department of Transportation. And what we would do is apply to have a truck exclusion imposed, and that would have to go through a review process and be approved in order to allow us to do that. There are several constraints that apply. Some of them have to do with the proportion of truck traffic, for example, relative to the total volume of traffic. Most of these other conditions are probably so that people have a reasonable and a realistic expectation. These conditions are going to be moot because there's one specific condition in this area that is going to be difficult to get around. The imposition of a truck exclusion requires either that the diverted traffic remains wholly within the community that's making the application for the exclusion, or that it lies partially in an adjacent community, but only on state highways running through that community, or it lies partially in an adjacent community and have the adjacent community's written approval to allow the exclusion to be imposed and to have the traffic diverted through their municipality. As you might reasonably expect, no community is anxious to have additional traffic being diverted into its roadways. For the moment, we have reached out, well, let me back up. This section of Bartlett Street that we're talking about has a section running from the area of Cedar Street, Cedar Hill Street, down to Lyman Street. Along that stretch, the diversion of traffic would either be toward Marlborough, up toward the Cedar Hill Street direction, or down Lyman Street, away from the remaining section of Bartlett that takes you to Route 20. In order to divert the traffic in either of those two directions and avoid the residential area of Bartlett Street, that would require the permission of either Marlborough or Westborough to allow that traffic diversion to take place. And as I was beginning to say, the cooperation of those communities to accept that traffic is unlikely to be forthcoming. The town is going to reach out to those communities. If necessary, we can get a formal written statement to that effect, but I think it's been the case in recent years or in recent history where whenever one community has made that kind of request, it has been denied by the adjoining community. And it's gone in both directions. I believe Northborough has denied requests from Marlborough, for instance, to allow a certain kind of exclusion or diversion to take place. So it is unlikely that we're going to have the cooperation of the adjacent communities. And as a result of that, it it's not going to be possible without that cooperation to impose any kind of truck exclusion on Bartlett Street. So again, this is information that town staff has investigated, provided. We are reaching out to the joining communities to ask about the cooperation, but I don't think that the response we're getting is going to be favorable. John, would you care to offer any further comment on that?
We have spoken with folks in Marlborough and Westborough, and as you can imagine, they're not interested in having traffic from Northborough diverted into the communities anymore than we're interested in having them divert their traffic onto Bartlett Street or into our community. So unfortunately, that is the situation. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to a truck exclusion is that any truck that has business on that roadway for deliveries or going to and from the facility is exempt. So trucks that have business on that roadway are able to use it. But your summary of the current situation, which would require truck traffic being diverted to neighboring communities, would require their approval to do that. And we have requested that, and we've been told no. Whether or not we need that in writing is up to the board. Historically, we've been asked that over the years, and there's really not an upside to for Northborough to take additional truck traffic from the surrounding community. So you can understand that position. So based on that information, a truck exclusion on Bartlett is not going to be something that would be a workable situation. And that's the information that we provided to the board.
Very good, John. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
And then switching gears here on another topic, we've had an inquiry about reforming the Citizens Advisory Board. This is a board that is defined in part of our administrative code. In looking at the definition of that board, there seems to be significant overlap with respect to the master plan or consideration of master plan and planning activities that go on in the town. However, and again, I'll just read the memorandum that's been distributed to the Board of Selectmen as part of the information here. We once again have sought the opinion of town council with respect to that, and this statement kind of summarizes the understanding. This is from the town administrator to the Board of Selectmen. At your last meeting under public comments, there was a request for the board to review the possibility of reviving a long defunct Citizens Advisory Board, which is included in the town code under section 1-16-090. Copies attached for reference. Based upon research conducted by the town clerk, this board has been inactive for over 35 years and predates the town's hiring of a professional town planner. As you know, there are many instances in the town code where outdated boards, committees, or positions which are no longer relevant are still included as part of the administrative code. Other examples include a power line committee, a moth control superintendent, and a measure of bark and wood. Many of these old references have been superseded by state statutes, codes, or current practices. According to town council, a number of these obsolete boards and committees are only advisory in nature and serve no statutorily required purpose. These boards and committees are also not required bodies under the town charter. As previously discussed, time and resources permitting, the town should complete a recodification project to eliminate such obsolete references and superseded bylaws from the town code. As you know, the Board of Selectmen followed the recommendations of the Master Plan Steering Committee, which are included in the adopted master plan, and has already formed a Master Plan Implementation Committee. Although the role of the Implementation Committee and the description of duties for the Citizens Advisory Board are not exactly the same, the significant overlap that would exist if both bodies were in place would result in duplicate efforts, cause confusion, and unnecessarily consume limited staff resources. According to town council, where the Citizens Advisory Board is an advisory body, not required by statute, and not required in order for another board to perform a function required by statute, and where it is designated as being under the policy direction of the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen is not required to assign to the Citizens Advisory Board the functions which the board has already given to the Master Plan Steering Committee. I'm sorry, the Implementation Committee, I believe is the reference there. Given the creation of a contemporaneous committee in accordance with the newly adopted master plan, reinstatement of the old Citizens Advisory Board does not appear warranted at this time. So that is the memorandum from the town administrator to the Board of Selectmen with input from the town clerk and town council. The Citizens Advisory Board is a board that has been inactive for over 35 years. The definition of that board refers to duties which predate the position of having a professional town planner to assume those kinds of duties and work. And we've recently, and consistent with the Master Plan Steering Committee, or the Master Plan that was adopted by the Planning Board, we have recently charged and instituted the Master Plan Implementation Committee, which will have largely the same kinds of responsibilities and whose composition, I would argue, is more aligned with some of the respective interests that factor into the master plan and provide representation for certain other town boards and committees that have participated through the steering process and are knowledgeable of some of the factors that we would like to look at going forward. So from this standpoint, it's not, there does not seem to be any purpose in reviving what's essentially an obsolete committee, which was defined in another era and for somewhat of a different purpose than what we're undertaking today. And then finally, this is just my comment because I received an inquiry from a citizen a couple of meetings ago when we were finalizing the formation of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. On the day of that meeting, late in the afternoon, we received an email from a citizen who submitted a statement that they wished to have read during the discussion of that agenda item. The problem with that was that the agenda item itself was not posted as a public hearing. And since we had not invited the public to offer any additional comment and the public didn't have a reasonable notice that any comment would be accepted, it was inappropriate to take that statement and present it during the discussion of that agenda item. Didn't have an opportunity to speak with the submitter prior to the meeting. And so what I did at that time in trying to make an accommodation was to, at the end of public comment, acknowledge receipt of the statement and just very tersely summarize what the substance of that submission was without reading the full statement verbatim. So I just want to be clear that the statement that was submitted was not intended for public comment. What I did was try to accommodate it by making reference to it at the end of public comment. The statement referred to an agenda item that was not posted as a public hearing. It would not have been appropriate to present that input from the public in the context of that discussion for that reason. And I think that concludes my report. One final thing I will do as I transition here is to welcome our new Assistant Town Administrator, Rebecca Meekins. Rebecca, would you, actually, John, would you care to introduce Rebecca in person for the first time at one of our meetings?
Sure, it would be my pleasure. So, Becca Meekins is the new Assistant Town Administrator. She's completing week 2 with us. Becca was the Assistant Town Administrator in Grafton, where she had worked since 2016. She's got a master's degree in public administration from Clark University and extensive background in municipal finance, procurement, HR, policy analysis, ticking off all the boxes that we were looking for in a new assistant. We did an exhaustive search. We actually went out twice. We went out once and did not find an applicant that we felt what we wanted to bring forward. Went back out again using some consulting services, and Becca turned up in that pool. And I am very, very pleased to have her on board and a member of our team. She's definitely going to be an asset for us moving forward. And I'm resisting just piling stuff up on her desk from my desk right away. But everything I've given her so far, she's taken and run with it. And I just want to say I'm very pleased to have Becca on board. And the staff has reacted well. Her reputation from Grafton, from the other departments, I think most of the folks here have received calls or comments from their colleagues in Grafton saying we're lucky to have her. So I feel lucky to have her, and I want to welcome her here tonight. And Becca, I don't know if you want to say a few words, but officially just welcoming you and introducing you to the town of Northborough.
Sure. Thank you for that introduction. That was a great introduction, John. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm super excited to start with Northborough. Fantastic community. Your community has a great reputation, particularly among its surrounding communities. I'm, starting week 3, and people ask me how it's going, and I tell them, well, I keep coming back. So I feel like that's the best sign that there is. Staff has been fantastic. You guys have lots of great projects going on that I'm really excited to dig in and provide my expertise and services to the residents of Northborough. So I'm excited to be here.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. And John, anything else under report?
Just wanted to make sure you might have read in the paper. So the governor has resubmitted his budget and just clarified again, despite the fact that we haven't gotten any additional information regarding some help from our friends at the federal level, that they are continuing to hold up their initial bargain of trying to level service or level fund rather the state aid, at least the Chapter 70 and the unrestricted general government aid accounts. If you read in the paper, it's amazing. It's like one day, we're going to get something done from the feds. It's going to happen in a week, and then it's not going to happen. Then it's going to happen. And then I read today that they were talking about potentially something coming in terms of stimulus or a federal aid before the election. And then if you finish reading the article, it says, well, in all likelihood, when you go through the logistics, it's not going to happen. So we pretty much remain in the same holding pattern. As I said to you at your last meeting, when the finance director and I gave you an update on the closure of fiscal 20, that with regard to fiscal 21, we're going to be okay based on the budget that we passed. The positive note is since we will receive more state aid than what our budget was predicated on, all those funds will be used and can only be used at the point at which we set the tax rate in November to reduce the tax impact. So there should be, based on by the very conservative budgets and a little additional state aid, that we are probably looking at a fairly flat tax increase for fiscal 21, which I think will be well received by the businesses and the residents of the town. And so that's where we are. The only alternative would be to hold a fall town meeting just to spend the additional money rather than put it towards tax relief for the residents and the businesses. So conservatively, we're comfortable where we are in the budget. In November, your second meeting in November, as is tradition, we'll have the tax classification hearing, and that's where the board will actually see all of the information pulled together. We'll have the tax rate, and we'll also have at that point what the average single-family home tax impact will be. Again, we're just on the back of the envelope right now. That looks like a very modest, if any, increase for taxes for fiscal 21. Now, having said that, we are working right now on fiscal 2022. Fiscal 2022 is going to be the problem budget. You heard the governor speak to it. That's the budget he's concerned with. It's the budget that we're preparing now to take effect July 1 of next year. The most difficult thing is we just don't have any information from the federal government. And because we don't have that, we don't have any information whatsoever from the state. But we have to assume, barring significant federal aid floating through the state and to the town through them, we are going to be looking at a very difficult fiscal 2022. So we're preparing right now budgets that are level service, so to maintain our current level of services that we provide. And then as we get more information with regard to revenues, we'll start to kind of get a sense of where we are. Now, you know this, every year in December, we usually do a fiscal trend monitoring update, a state of the town, and an economic overview of where we are. I'm hoping, you know, we'll hold that meeting. I'm not sure how much information we're going to have, and that's going to be the difficult thing moving forward. The information will come late in the process, later than any of us are used to or would like. And I don't mind late news if it's good news, but my sense is it's going to be late news and it's going to be difficult news. So the good news for us in terms of the town of Northborough is that we have positioned ourselves well. And based on the budget that we approved for fiscal 21, we're hoping that we're going to be able to continue without significant service impacts in 2022. But again, so much of this depends on what the federal government does and then what the state government does with any revenues that they receive. Just as a refresher for folks, in the last recession, when the federal government provided stimulus funds, what the legislature did was they cut our state aid and then they backfilled it with those stimulus funds. And then next year, when the stimulus funds weren't there, that's when we felt the impact. So some of it's semantics, but the real thing here is to watch what's happening with the federal aid and how that's going to impact the state and trickle down to us. The other issue that we're going to be keeping a close eye on as we develop our fiscal 2022 budget is going to be our health insurance renewals. You hear me say every year, if health insurance is okay, you know, we're okay. So we're watching those numbers. We've had a few meetings with our consultants, but again, the thing that it's unclear to me is, you know, where is the market going because of the impacts of COVID-19? Utilization rates are down in general, but you know, if everybody's losing money, then someone's going to want to make that up somewhere. So those are two things: the federal aid and state aid through the federal government and health insurance are the two 800-pound gorillas that we'll continue to monitor. In the meantime, we'll do everything we can to put a level service budget together, and we're going to have to make decisions late in this process as we get more information. So just bear with us. It's not for a lack of trying on our part, but just like the state has not been unable to put together a fiscal 21 budget until this past month, we're not going to be able to put our budget together, or it's going to be difficult until we get some solid numbers, or at least an indication of where they're going from the federal government and the state government. So stay tuned. As soon as we hear anything, we're hoping maybe after the election that there might be some movement in Congress to approve a stimulus or an aid bill that we can maybe start to get some numbers out of from the state and fill in some rather large blanks in our budget model. So stay tuned and we'll get you more information.
Thank you very much.
That's all I
Chairman.
have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. This brings us to public comment. For purposes of our remote meeting, let me just explain the mechanism here. We're running through the Zoom application. It does accommodate phone calls, but I don't see anybody dialing in by phone now. I see some people connected through the Zoom application. If you would like to be recognized for public comment, please raise your hand. I do see one hand up already. Public comment is limited per person to 3 minutes. We ask you to please state your name and address and then proceed with your comment. Just for the purposes of understanding, public comment is an opportunity to present input to the Board of Selectmen. The board is not going to be taking any of the matters discussed into its own deliberations at this time. If there are relatively simple questions we can answer with the assistance of town staff that are factual, we will proceed with that if we can. Otherwise, the input will be taken under advisement. So if you would like to be recognized, please raise your hand. The first person is John Wickstead. And bring you in right now, John.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you please state your full name and address, please?
Sure, John Wickstead, 2 Stirrup Lane in Northborough. I just
Thank
had a
you.
quick process question. Not sure what the process is to go about trying to get a no parking enacted. As you know, I'm involved on the Bartlett Street issue, and I appreciate the selectmen, listening to us on this. One of the side effects of having all the trucks on Bartlett Street is that they've taken to parking overnight on Bartlett Street at least 2 or 3 times a week. As I commute to work down Bartlett Street, you'll see 18-wheelers pulled over on the side of Bartlett Street sleeping. There's lots of reasons why having 18-wheelers sleeping on our streets is not a good idea. And I wasn't sure what the exact process was to go about getting a no parking enacted on the street, for all those reasons why keeping trucks sleeping on our streets is a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you, John. John, would you care to comment on that?
I was just going to say,
explain
why
what
don't you
process
let
would
me,
be?
let me look into that, and I'll put some information together for the board for your next meeting.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
John. Any other attendees who wish to present public comment? Going once. Going twice. And public comment is concluded. Thank you for your participation. The next item on the agenda is appointment of a board member to the Master Plan Implementation Committee. As you know, we created the Master Plan Implementation Committee with representation of various boards and committees, a total of 13 members. The Board of Selectmen is one of the boards that has an appointment onto that committee, and this is our opportunity here to gauge interest of any member who wishes to serve and make that decision this evening. Is anyone interested in serving on the Master Plan Implementation Committee? Tim Kalin. Anyone else? Scott Rogers. Anyone else? Very good. Considering there are 2 candidates expressing interest, what's the will of the board? Would we like to go through a formal nomination and second process, something to that effect?
I'll be the first to say that, yeah, Tim, I'm okay to defer to Tim on that.
Oh, you are? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I didn't see, as I raised my hand, I didn't see Tim's hand either. So
okay,
proving that we don't do any deliberation outside of this meeting.
There you go. So you're withdrawing your interest in serving on the Master Plan Implementation.
There we go. If needed, I'll step in, but yeah,
very good.
I'll defer to Tim.
Okay, we have Tim having expressed interest. If there are no other offers, then do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Selectman Tim Kalin as the board's representative on the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Leslie?
I have a question. I have a question about.
I'll come back to you, Julianne. I thought Leslie had her hand up first. Leslie?
Well, I just want to thank Scott because you just made our job a lot easier tonight. That would have been, it's tough when 2 board members want to do something and you're both wonderful individuals. So thank you.
Very good.
No worries.
Julianne?
Actually, it should wait until after the vote. Sorry.
Okay, sure. If there's no other discussion, this would be a roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
Aye.
Leslie Rutan?
Aye.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And Jason Perot, I will also vote aye. So that carries unanimously to appoint Tim as the Board of Selectmen's representative on the Master Plan Implementation Committee. I'm sorry, Julian, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, I was just wondering if you would outline the process of how the citizens at large will be decided upon. What's the process for that?
Members of our interview committee, care to comment?
Well, the chair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes.
Okay. No, just like any other candidate who would like to apply to a committee, anyone can apply, and they all come before us on the interview committee. And, you know, we haven't discussed this at all yet, so I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. But, you know, in addition to the Board of Selectmen seat, Financial Planning Committee seat, Planning Board seat, Historic District Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, Open Space Committee, Council on Aging, we're going to be looking for people who have all sorts of other expertise. And one reason I felt very strongly that every committee be represented with one is that we can have more involvement from the community at large. So as it says here, we need expertise or hope for expertise in planning, architecture, economic development, landscape architecture, real estate, or other fields. So we will have to see who applies and what their backgrounds are, and we will hopefully have a wide array of people to choose from in terms of adding to the committee with those areas of expertise. So that's an ideal group. So hopefully that's what we get.
I think like a number of our committee appointments where there's a group of people to be selected from a number of applicants, your selection pool is whoever chooses to apply. And so until you've gone through the process to conduct the interviews of the applicants, to see their qualifications and skill sets, and then try to understand how those fit into the mission of the committee, and then try to make the best selections from among those applicants. So some of it just simply emerges from whoever chooses to apply and what their qualifications will be. Yes, Julia?
So my question was more about the interview process. Customarily, when the committees, when we interview people for committees, the chairperson of said committee is participating in the interview with the interview subcommittee. In other words, if it's for Historic District Commission, the chairperson of that committee sits in on the interviews of the applicants. So given the fact that so much of the master plan is the responsibility of the planning board, are we going to have a planning board designee interviewing the applicants?
The appointing authority is the Board of Selectmen. Certainly planning board members are welcome to observe. They're welcome to submit their written input to the committee here with whatever input and recommendations they might have. But I don't necessarily see that there's a need for them to participate in the interview process itself, since it is the Board of Selectmen's appointing authority. Mm-hmm. And it is not an established committee, so there is no chair or officers at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Next item on the agenda. Renewal of Central Massachusetts Veterans Service District Agreement with the towns of Grafton, Shrewsbury, and Westborough. This would be Justin Souza, our district agent, and let me bring Justin in.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Justin. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Can you describe a little bit about the agreement?
Yes, so the district in its current form has been operating since 2013. The district was renewed, I believe, for the second time back in November of 2018. That was the first renewal that I was director for, and it was put before all four boards to renew the district agreement, which we have copies of. I'm not sure if those were put into any type of board packet for you to preview before this, but we have them available if you need them. This is a request just to renew that district agreement for the four towns, Northborough, Westborough, Grafton, Shrewsbury, to continue operating in the district as they have been. The district has been running very well with myself as the director full-time, and I have two part-time agents, Mike Perna and John Gallina. We oversee applications for federal, state, and local veterans benefits. So far this year with COVID, we have been able to help one veteran with unemployment. When her unemployment assistance ran out, we were able to get her on Chapter 115. I can go into a little more detail some of the other benefits if you'd like. One thing I would like to highlight is Veterans Day. We are working together with Northborough TV to highlight several veterans around the town in a brief interview. Program should be about 30 minutes long, I think. It will be a virtual presentation similar to the Memorial Day presentation this year in conjunction with the COVID guidelines. I felt it was only prudent to do a virtual celebration of Veterans Day, seeing as most of our veterans are in a vulnerable category due to their advanced ages. So we're working on that. And Boroughs Cares for Troops is a nonprofit located in Northborough, and they are currently working on a program called Hometown Heroes banners. If you're familiar with the one in Bolton and Marlborough, this will be similar. So they got some veteran families to have a veteran, their veteran photo submitted. And I've seen a preview of some of these banners. They're going to look very sharp on Main Street for November. Pending your questions, that's a brief summary of our district.
Thank you very much, Justin. Board members, any questions? Leslie?
I don't have a question, but Justin, I want to thank you very much for the idea to have something go out on cable similar to Memorial Day. I think that is excellent. Thank you very much for working to put that together.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I felt there was only, it's the only thing we really can do, and we have to do something because our veterans are a large part of our community. As you saw, you had 3 brand new firefighters come on, and out of those 3, one of them is a veteran. So odds are people are veterans, you may not even know it. So we want to make sure that we recognize them, and the program's gonna highlight what does Veterans Day mean to me. And I picked a few veterans as far as I can, diversifying their backgrounds and their trying to make sure I get a good spread. I think there'll be about 5 from Northborough. So I think it'll be a good program. I'm excited for it.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much, Justin. I guess what we need now is a motion to make the approval. I'm sorry, Julianne, you're muted. Julianne, you're muted. There you go.
I'll start again.
Hi, Julianne.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to authorize the chair to send a letter to the State Department of Veteran Services in support of the application for renewal of the Central Massachusetts Veteran Services District for the towns of Northborough, Grafton, Shrewsbury, and Westborough.
Seconded.
Moved by Julianne Hirsch, seconded by Scott Rogers. If there's no further discussion, this is again a roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
Aye.
Leslie Rutan?
Aye.
Tim Kalin?
Aye.
And I, Jason Perot, will vote aye as well, so it carries unanimously. I will follow up with the letter to get that signed and get that to you, Justin. And thank you very much for all the work that you do on behalf of the veterans. We certainly appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing support and great programs like the Hometown Heroes and support services for veterans. So.
Thank you very much, Jason. I'd like to thank you also. Every time I've asked for your presence at a veterans event, you've graciously accepted and knocked every one of your speeches out of the park. Thank you very much.
Oh,
I really appreciate your support. And John Codere, I really appreciate all your support. And anytime that I come to you with a question, problem, you always have a good answer for me. I just want to say that in front of everyone here. I really appreciate your guidance and advice. Thank you very much. And Becca, I'm really glad that I've got you still as part of my my board of directors for the district. It's great to see you here. Congratulations. Thank you very much, everyone. Yep.
I was just saying, just so everybody knows here, Becca was the coordinator for our district through the host community, which was the town of Grafton. So we have that expertise in-house now. So
excellent, excellent. All right then. Thank you very much, Justin. Good night.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the execution of the November 3rd, 2020 state election warrant. We have a copy of the warrant in our packets here. Well, for purposes of discussion, do I have a motion?
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. Fiddling with my mute button now. I move the board vote to execute the November 3rd, 2020 state election warrant.
Second.
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Leslie Rutan. Any discussion? Hearing none. Again, a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And Jason Perot, I vote aye. Carries unanimously. Next item, execution of cemetery deed 1103. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to execute cemetery deed 1103.
Second.
Moved by Tim Kalin, and I heard a second by Scott Rogers. There may have been someone before that, but I didn't catch who that was. Once again, roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch.
Aye.
Leslie Rutan.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Aye.
And Jason Perot, I vote aye. Carries unanimously. John, any other business to come before the board?
no regular business this evening, but we do have the need of an executive session for collective bargaining and discussion of purchase of real property.
Okay.
Excuse me, Jason.
Yes, Julianne.
I have a follow-up. It's not necessarily new business, but regarding the discussion or the statement that that was provided to us about the truck restriction on Bartlett Street. Just to do our due diligence, I think that getting written statements from Westborough and Marlborough regarding their comments about this would be helpful.
Yes, I think that's fine. John and Scott, can you arrange for that written response?
Certainly happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing more, next item would be executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection 3, Collective Bargaining, Patrol Officers Union, Level 3 Grievance, and Subsection 6, to consider the purchase of real property, purchase and sale agreement for fire station project at 61 through 65 West Main Street, due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding these matters in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the board. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21, Subsection 3, Collective Bargaining, Patrol Officers Union Level 3 grievance, and Subsection 6 to consider the purchase of real property, purchase and sale agreement for fire station project at 61 to 65 West Main Street due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding these matters in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the board.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Batan, seconded by Tim Kalen. This is a roll call vote. Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch,
Aye.
Leslie Batan,
Aye.
Tim Kalen,
Aye.
and I, Jason Perot, also vote aye. Carries unanimously. The Board of Selectmen will now move to executive session under our remote meeting technology here. The open session is concluded. There will be no further business conducted in open session this evening. Thank you all very much, and we will see you in the executive session.